Welcome back to the After Action Podcast. We got a special for you because, as you know, myself and my two co-hosts are Marine Corps recruiters. That's what we do. That's what we talk about here. We also tend to get a lot of flack from the drill instructors because we are very open about the fact that we truly do believe that drill instructors are the subordinate element when it comes to recruiters. We all know recruiting duty is the hardest duty in the Marine Corps. But we brought with you somebody who you may have seen before over on TikTok, maybe here on YouTube or even on Instagram. We got Josh from Battle Buddy Banter. He has agreed to come on to the After Action Podcast and kind of give us maybe his difference of opinion or maybe a side of the grass that we haven't seen just yet. So we're about to get right into this here on the After Actions Podcast. All right, guys. So if you don't know who Josh is, he goes by Battle Buddy Banter. And if you haven't seen his stuff, you guys need to check it out. I'm going to link him down here in the description because he comes up with these skits and they are honestly hilarious. The only downside is he was a drill instructor. You know, and we're recruiters over here, and that's kind of what we do. But I'm going to pass it over here to Josh, and he can tell you a little bit about himself. So, Josh, you got anything for the people?
My time during drill instructor duty was from 2020 to 2023. I did 7 cycles, 3 on the first, and then I did a quota, which a quota typically consists of 6 months to a year, and then you go back and do your rest of the cycles. But I did it 2020 to 2023, did it honorably. Did pretty good. I went from 4th hat, 3rd hat, heavy, all the way to senior. And then I got orders to come here and get stationed in MCBH, Hawaii. So I'm a staff sergeant. I've been serving for over 10 years. And I'm in a good place right now.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, welcome to the After Actions Podcast, Josh. Like, we're excited to have you. All this stuff about, the little banter about the drill instructors. It's all fair game amongst the brotherhood. We love our drill instructors because they do a job just like everybody else in the Marine Corps does a job. You and your peers are literally out there training the future warfighters of America. And that, honestly, it doesn't get much more important than that, aside from the recruiters who have to go out and find those people who bring those people to you. Like I said, we sometimes get some backlash from the drill instructor community. And I know you do a lot of other things in your time served aside from the 3-year stint on drill instructor. But, we kind of just want to deep dive into that and get your perspective on a few things. It's a belief of mine, right, that recruiting duty is the hardest duty out there. And to me, it's not really an argument. And I just say that because there are no two same people in this world. Everybody, they could be identical twins and look exactly alike, but emotionally they are different. And we have to match and mirror and learn how to respond to whatever disinterest that they may have, and ultimately find a way for them to decide they want to sign 4 years of their life away. And so I say that just because, like, when I say that recruiting duty is harder, most Marines, to my knowledge, that most of them are comfortable with, raising their voice a little bit. Most of them are comfortable with going out and running here and running there and taking orders and giving orders, which is, in my opinion, kind of what drill instructor is. And I might be wrong, but that's why I kind of want your perspective. Like, am I tripping when I'm thinking this way?
I think you can compare them all day, but drill instructor for me, and I would say, even Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps said the drill instructor duty was the hardest. It's because it's physically demanding. It's physically taxing. You're relearning, not because you wear hot shit in the fleet. You're going to be hot shit at Paris Island or San Diego. It's a different kind of beast. Like the drill instructor fitness level, right? It's not the same as a fleet fitness level. So when you're trying to compare the, when you try to compare recruiting and drill instructor, you can't really measure, you can't really compare oranges to apples because, you think about it every year, right? What is I'm gonna get into this. I'm gonna throw this ball to you and you tell me what you think. The average suicide rate for drill instructor duty, and then the average suicide rate for recruiting duty, it might be almost the same, but it's a different kind of demand. if you think about it.
When it comes to something like unaliving, man, it's tough because I think that it's definitely, of course, your work stressors come into play, but it certainly, obviously, depends on the individual and what they are going through and how they handle those stressors. I think that the military in general applies a lot of those stressors. Marines bring it up to another level because we're expected to overcome those stressors, and essentially like adapt to what's going on. Like, hey, if you got a problem, go to medical, but if you go to medical, you're a bitch. Like that's kind of like that was the way that I had came up, and it wasn't until towards the end of my 12-year career where I started going to medical and making sure that the things that I was going through were documented so that I was taken care of by the time I got out. Lou, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he hit the nail on the head. I think that like when it comes to the challenges, like we both face different kind of challenges. I'll go on record, Josh, and say that I'm one of those people that think that they're both equally challenging, just in different ways. I mean, I can see the argument for drill instructor. I can see the argument for recruiter. And that's just because as a young Marine, I got brought up by nothing but drill instructors. So like, I always got love for y'all. But when it comes to the actual recruiting side, I haven't done it. It's a whole different beast. It's more mental than anything. You from not just the approach, but how much it gets put at stake for us to be able to find an applicant, convince him that this is the best choice for them when they're thinking about doing something else with their lives. I mean, that's hard. You're talking, sleazy car salesman kind of stuff, right? So it just really turns into like this really listening to what this person wants to do with their lives, and then us being able to know our shit, product knowledge, right, and present them with how the Marine Corps can be a better fit for them. But something that we always harp on, at least we did in our office, which is why our attrition rate was like extremely low, and Dom can attest to this. I mean, he got an award for going X amount of months without having anybody not make it through Paris Island. But it's because of the mindset that is set and that is built from that moment. I think that a lot of times when kids are going down there, they're just not getting that love that we were giving them. And that just falls on the recruiter. I mean, honestly, it does. When it comes to the challenges and things like that, I mean, I believe they're both equally stressful. It's just different ways. And I agree, like y'all are some beasts, man. Physically, like the stuff y'all have to go through, the times you guys have to like wake up, and then the times that you guys are up till, and then you still got to do the counselings and all that stuff. It's a lot.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't disagree that it's a lot. Like, I get it's a lot, people. I just got, I don't know. I just got my opinions, and it's because like, I understand like the PT levels are higher as a drill instructor. Like if the recruit has to run a mile, you've probably ran 2 miles going back and forth, checking on the recruits and whatnot, I mean, and that number might even be higher. And I don't know, maybe it's just like me trying to put my own self in like a drill instructor's shoes. And if Josh, if you haven't seen like some of our other episodes, trust me when I say like, I don't believe there's a lot of people better than me in a whole lot of things. I'm a cocky person. Like that's just like how I am. If I see somebody doing this, my first reaction is to compare how I feel like I would do in that position, right? And I applied the same exact thing to recruiting duty. But to say that drill instructors don't have it rough, like I know y'all do. One of the hardest stressors that we go through as recruiters is like the stress it brings on our family. We're always away from home. I know sometimes y'all got to stay overnight and whatnot. I mean, realistically, sometimes we staying overnight too. It just kind of depends on the scenario. But what are some things that you kind of wonder about, like the recruiting field? Like I'm sure you have things that are on your chest about like, why in the world would this kid be here right now Like, did he even want to be a Marine? Like, do you have any thoughts on anything like that?
So, I mean, I speak from experience, and you really don't get to see everything until you become a senior, right? Because when you're a fourth hat, the only job is to make their lives miserable. Make sure that
Mhm.
attention detail, shoe displays, you mess up the shoe displays, you mess up, the full lockers if it's unsecure.
Yeah.
You make them, you IT them, but you really don't have that much responsibility until you get to your EDI cycle. And then once you get to your senior, that's when you start seeing the ones that are coming in from receiving. And I tell you, I have a lot of stories where kids, right, that usually tend to quit within the first 2 weeks, within the
Yeah.
first 2 weeks from forming all the way till training day 5. And I just wonder because when you look at the platoon, most of it consists of if you put it on a perspective, right? You look at
Mhm.
all the recruits, you see that most of them come from broken homes. Nobody,
Yeah.
no Mark Sagenberg, uh, rich person is gonna say, "I'm gonna join the Marine Corps." Yeah, I'm in a good spot. I have millions of
Yeah.
dollars. I have a freaking Lamborghini, whatever. I have a mansion. Yeah, I'm gonna go join the Marine Corps. Nobody does that. It's usually the ones that I'm
Need it.
homeless. Yeah, I come from a broken home. I come from the hood. I come from the projects. I come from being neglected. I come from being abused. Um, so when you get those kids, the once in a blue moon, the rare occasions where they have both parents, they have a good family, steady family, and you call them silver spoons, right? The
Yep.
ones that grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth, and those are the kids that usually tend to quit the most. And so my question is, when the recruiters are getting this kids ready to go to boot camp, why isn't it addressed? Or if it's addressed, why isn't it maybe embedded in their brain? Like, okay, look, you're not part of the civilian world. You're not from Texas or Louisiana or New York or New Jersey anymore. You're part of a warfighting organization. You're gonna go and you're gonna be owned and you're gonna be broken and remolded into United States Marine. That's my question. Why are these kids not ready? Or maybe they are, but they're not being told what to expect.
I think really what it comes down to, and this is my personal opinion, uh, recruiters that are still in or that just live in a fucking fantasy world will tell you, oh no, it's because of this or that. It's the mission, man. We have a number. We got to make shipping is king, right? There's this saying in recruiting, shipping is king. And at the end of the day, like I, as a recruiter, knew well in my heart when a kid was gonna make it and when he wasn't. Did I ship a kid that I knew he wasn't gonna make it? Absolutely. Why?
Yep.
Because I got told he needed to go. Because if the RS doesn't miss his shipping, they don't make mission for the year. They're fucked. That's how COs get relieved, that type of stuff. That's my personal opinion. Other people will tell you it's because they don't care, this and that. But simply to me, that's what it comes down to. You got to make your shipping mission. Uh, Unfortunately, this kid should have maybe had more time in the depth to develop, or should have never even been a part of the program to begin with. But at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, and that's why you see them go down.
I completely agree with Lou. I also completely understand your frustration with that one, Josh. I mean, here's my 2 cents on the matter. I mean, I've been in the position where it wasn't just me and my work because I inherited this from Lou, but I've literally been awarded from my command for going so long without dropping a single person on Paris Island. They ship, they go, and they graduate. And this was not like a recruiting station award because there's roughly 11 recruiting substations inside of one recruiting station. But then you've got multiple, like I believe it's roughly around 8 recruiting stations inside of a district. So this was a district level award at going the longest of any other recruiting substations. So if you're counting recruiting substations, we're talking upwards of 50 offices that have taken depot discharges before myself. I think I went 9 months without taking one. But to go into what Lou said, it definitely depends on the individual recruiter. And if the individual recruiter is not doing what they need to do to make sure that that recruiter's poolees are mentally and physically prepared, the staff NCOIC of that office needs to step in and either push the recruiter or take over that recruiter's poolees so that the recruiter has time to go out and contract more kids. That doesn't always happen, and the kid shipping window will certainly come around. And if I look at this kid, I'm like, man, he's only been a poolee for 2.5 months, right? He hasn't progressed as much as I thought he would in this time. Now I got two options. I either call my boss and let my boss know, not my boss, I'm calling ops at the district, and I'm telling ops, like, hey, this kid's not good. Well, the first thing that ops is going to do when I make that phone call is not let me replace that kid with another kid that's good to go. He's going to force me to miss shipping, and he's going to call another office and say, hey, send your backup shipper, and it forces me to fail. So now I'm caught into this bubble where if I miss shipping, they are going to come down on me the same way the district colonel would come down on the major at the RS level. You know, shit rolls downhill. So do I want to miss shipping, or am I going to send that kid? Because, yeah, I get graded on people not making boot camp, but that pales in comparison to me missing shipping. So it's like, what lower grade do I want to take? You know, I'm going to ship that kid. That's kind of our thought process. Lou, I think you had something you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, just before I forget, I wanted you to finish your thought, but with the operations piece, that's at that particular operations chief that he had to work with during his time. They're not all like that. So I just want to make that clear. You know, everybody runs their house a little different. That was how he ran it whenever I was the station commander and Dom took over. But it's not always the case. I do agree that a lot of times we tend to sometimes also be a little bit overconfident. Like we trust our training and our kids. And then sometimes it's just really the shock factor that you guys provide down there at Paris Island. Like, we can have a mass night, we can have a DI day or a yearly field day, but there's nothing that we have as a recruiter to emulate or simulate what you guys do down there. So there is a shock to it. And some people, you know, it's kind of like the first time you deploy. Like, you either can handle it or you can't. And you really don't find out until you're down there. And I think that just goes from, I think in your case, you ran into a lot of people that were from a higher end that had all these things given to them. That was the first time they probably had to work for something in their lives. They weren't ready for that. I will say I've had kids that were from good families that did make it. It just different walks of life. Everybody's different, like you said. It's getting over that mental hurdle. Some people got it, some people don't.
I mean, I understand now. I mean, there's not a lot of control that you guys have on your end when it comes to making mission. I feel like there's more control on our end on how do we handle, kids. I take pride as a senior. I took pride on trying to make every single recruit into a Marine. And if for some reason they didn't make the cut, you drop them. But worst case scenario, they get recycled into another platoon. So it's not really the end of the world for them. But I did take pride, and I do understand that, you know, the frustration comes from just being in the shoes of the drill instructor. Like, oh, this kid wants to quit. He hasn't even been here a whole week, and he's already wanting to call his mama and his recruiter crying about, I want to go home. All right, like, the
Yeah.
recruiter failed you, but in the end, it's not the recruiter's fault. It's just the kid himself.
I just mentioned how I got recognized for having that long streak, and once that streak broke, I can certainly say once the streak broke, I contributed to your frustration over there on the island, because like once the streak was over, I've got the other pressures coming. Like Lou said, this was the ops department that I worked with. They ain't like me. They ain't like the way that I did business, and that's fine. That's their opinion. I cared about my Marines and their perception of me, and making sure that, hey, my poolies were being taken care of before they went down there. So, in a sense, like, I started pushing back. If they're trying to tell me I need to send this kid because the recruiting station needs it, well, I'm trying to tell them, like, I just randomly knocked on a house door and this kid was sleeping on his grandma's floor. And, he's crackhead skinny. He's never done a pull-up, or he's never ran in his life. He can't go to boot camp in the same month that I just convinced him to enlist. Like, he needs time. So I had that conversation and instantly lost faith with my ops department, and we had beef, essentially. But once that streak had broken, I once got a phone call from one of my recruiters and said, hey, my kid's not trying to ship. On the day we're supposed to take him to go to the hotel, he stays the night in the hotel, and then he goes off to Paris Island. My kid ain't trying to ship. And I show up, and on my way there, I call my ops and I give them the heads up. Like, oh, I got bad news. Let me just make sure that my bosses are tracking this, right? And instead of them, maybe coaching me up on, hey, have this conversation, or hey, let me talk to the kid, or any of that, he just decides to chew my ass. He decides to chew my ass about the thing. And I ended up convincing the kid to ship anyway, and he became a Marine. So I have that experience in my back pocket. And then the next time that it happens, it was a Marine reservist, which is an even bigger deal if that kid doesn't ship. Hey, boss, my kid doesn't want to ship. That's my recruiter calling me. Okay, I'm heading over. I don't call the ops chief this time. Why would I call him? All he did was chew my ass, and the kid went anyway and became a Marine. So I don't call him. And the kid, he's adamant. He don't want to go. Then I've PT'd him. I've prepared him. I've done everything that I would typically do to make sure that a kid is ready to go to boot camp and excel while they're there. But he don't want to go. Like, his girlfriend is against it, and he's tapping out. And I essentially looked at him and I told him, and I'm going to say this for one reason and one reason only, and that's because I'm a veteran. So, all right. So I just want to make sure that's clear. This is my experience and nobody else's. But I go to that kid's house and I'm try convincing him, as I should. He's not about it. And I told him, I was like, look, dude, I asked you, like, man to man, are you good to ship yesterday? And you told me, yeah. I could have, stopped all of this, but you told me you were good. Like, as a man, you are literally trying to jeopardize my career. Like, that's how serious this is. I need you to get on that plane. And I literally broke it down to him. You're going to get on the plane. The drill instructors are going to yell. You're not going to respond. And they're going to send you home. And you might be there for 5 days. And you'll be right back here where you want to be. Can I trust you to get on the plane? He's like, yeah, I got you. That dude went to Paris Island. He didn't crack on the moment of truth. His drill instructor calls me. It was like, he was a sergeant. He's like, hey, Staff Sergeant, I got this kid here, recruit whoever. He's refusing to eat. He's refusing to use the bathroom. He's refusing to speak. I just want to see, like, hey, can you talk to him? And I was like, yeah, I'll talk to him. Puts him on the phone, and I was like, hey, am I on speakerphone? He's like, no, sir. I was like, so I'm in your ear? He's like, yes, sir. I was like, Just keep doing what you're doing. You'll be home in a couple days.
Gosh.
And I hung up on him. And I know, so hearing that probably pisses you off to your core, right? And which is fair. I get it. Because that drill instructor called me to help him. He's trying to do everything he can. But if I have a kid that's a reservist, hard spot to fill, because we're talking specific jobs that on specific ship dates. So now I'm not just finding somebody to fill a spot. I have to find a reservist to fill the spot and to take the job.
That qualifies for it too.
That qualifies for the job. I was not about to call my ops and tell them this kid ain't gonna make it. I'd rather ship him and see him in 5 days. What's your thoughts?
So before because I had this thought, right? For the audience listening right now, if you are planning to join the Marine Corps or the Army or whatever, at least for the Marine Corps, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you decide, like, there's no such thing as quitting, but for some reason, if you refuse to train, they're gonna keep you there longer. Do not, for whatever circumstance, think that boot camp is just what the entire Marine Corps is. Because a lot of people just, for some reason, they think, oh, boot camp, this is gonna be the entirety of my career. Fuck that. Hell no, I'm not doing this. No, it's just the basic fundamentals that you learn through boot camp, and then you go to MCT. They treat you different once you graduate. You go to MCT, they treat you different at MOS school, and then or SOI, and then you get back to the fleet. They don't treat you the same as a recruit. Depending on your MOS, they might be strict or more stern, but it is not the case. But if you ever say, I'm gonna go to Paris Island, and if it doesn't work out, I'm not gonna train. Okay, what you're gonna see is the senior drill instructor work on the paperwork, right? But it's gonna take longer for him to work on the paperwork and get the package to send you home. By the time that you are still in training and refusing to train, those recruits are gonna graduate. So it might not be on graduation day or graduation week or crucible, but it might be 5 days away from the crucible, and you're still walking around with 2 glow straps around your shoulders, not saying anything. Sir, this crew does not want to train. Yes, sir. No, sir. Okay, cool. Hey, these kids are going to the crucible, and they're coming back in like 5 days. And then you're going to be going home on a plane or on a bus or whatever, and you're going to see the brand new Marines saying like, hey, you could have been here with us. So it's not a getaway ticket to refuse to train. And I don't know how bad it affects their contract or their career, or when they get out, if they refuse to train. And I'm not sure if you have any input on that. Like, let's say a kid goes and says, I don't want to do it anymore. Does that affect their career outside of the military or in the civilian world?
No, as long as it's not like fraud and things like that. The reason why they're getting sent home, or like charges or things like that, right? But typically, if a kid just gets sent home, they get that RE code, and it's gonna be extremely difficult for them to join any branch at that point. Because then when we do a spiff over at MEPS and we get those discharge, we look up those codes, and it's like, you gotta be a water walker at that point in order for you to get that waiver, and it's not gonna happen.
It also depends on the characterization of service that they get when they get out. I mean, you could go in and apply anywhere that you want to apply, right? And you could either leave off the fact that you attempted to go into the service, or you could acknowledge the fact and let them know, like, yeah, this was my discharge. But ultimately, at least from my experience, the only real way that that's going to affect anything is if you try to get a state or federal job, because they will look into all of that. Yeah. But if you're just trying to become the supervisor over at Walmart, you're fine. That's definitely something that the viewers out here need to understand. Like, hey, by deciding you want to join the United States Armed Services, especially something like the Marine Corps, You're making that decision as a grown man or a grown woman. You decided that this is what you want to do for your future, so you need to take that very seriously. And Josh, I really appreciate you kind of explaining that process. You know, we're not so much in the fashion of coming on here and talking about ways of getting out, you know, trying to find your way out of the contract, but we definitely do want to be like clear and transparent about how sometimes these scenarios kind of work out. But at the same time, I tell you that story, you know, that I sent that kid over there. I was also the same guy where it's like, if we send somebody to boot camp and they're going through receiving and they go through the moment of truth and they crack, if they go to the moment of truth and they disclose anything, first of all, we find out very fast. I don't know why they think that we don't know, dude. Like, as soon as that letter gets sent out, I'm getting a phone call if one of my kids cracked, right? And from ops. And as soon as I find out, I pull the report. Damn, I sent 4 kids down there and 2 of them cracked. Why? Why would that happen? I print that letter out, and at the very next pool PT, I read it off to all of them. This motherfucker went down there and said this about one of my recruiters. I dare one of y'all to say that about my recruiter, because you're not my brother, you're not my sister. They are. If you want to fucking crack, leave my recruiter's name out of it. And I'm telling you, like, I would bring all my poolees, 30, 40 kids, and I would do that same thing. Y'all ain't writing that kid no letters. Y'all screw that kid. Y'all ain't writing him no letter, because we had a very good pool. Like, they would come in if an applicant struggled with taking the ASVAB. We'd bring in a poolee and they would study with the applicant. You know, if they struggle with pull-ups, they're coming to remedial PTs. I don't have time to run extra PTs because I'm trying to find kids to join. The squad leaders come on Mondays and Fridays, and they run the PTs to help the guys who are struggling. So when I walk out of my office and I'm reading this guy who I worked my ass off for threw my name under the bus, I dare one of y'all to do it. And, you know, and it worked. It worked, like, you know, and that's just kind of like the rapport that we had over there in Syracuse, New York.
Yeah. With the attrition too, Josh, we got a percentage that we can to play with. I say that lightly. Like, obviously you don't want anybody to not make it, but we have to stay within a certain percentage. So, like, if you're sending like 20 kids down there and like 19 of them are coming home, yeah, that's a bad look. And like, your fitness report will reflect that, so it can impact you in a negative way on how you get ranked and everything like that with your peers. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, what were some of the common things through your time in as a drill instructor that would cause kids to not make it, whether it be injuries, you know, the mental things that you were talking about earlier? What were some of those common things, and how can we maybe prepare them so that that doesn't happen?
Awesome question. So before I start, I want to say the quickest way out of Paris Island is to graduate. If you want to freaking get out, just graduate. Don't get in trouble. Don't get in any trouble. You know, do what you're told and do it fast with volume. That's it, and intensity. And then if you don't make it for some reason, you say, or you're one of those that find a way to crack the code and say, yeah, I'm gonna go home. Don't call yourself a fucking veteran, because I had one of my ex-brothers-in-law that he shipped after me, and he's calling himself, oh yeah, I'm a veteran. Fuck you. Like, you're not a fucking veteran. You're just, you went to boot camp for like 2 weeks and you quit, or or something like that. But yeah, so we really don't have a lot of problems when it comes to police or now recruits failing the IST, right? There's a lot that fail the IST. They get shipped for some reason. They can only get like 1 pull-up, and their runtime sucks. But we work through them. We work, especially if the senior has a lot of pride and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this shithead right here, I'm gonna make him a United States Marine. I'm gonna take the bottom of the barrel and I'm gonna make something out of this. That's something that every senior should take pride on. So in the ISD, the physical fitness aspect, we really don't have to worry about that, because when they start, they might suck, and then when they end, they get better. They're not gonna get 23 pull-ups, but they might get 5 or 7, right? And their run time is gonna increase or decrease to a better run time significantly. What really does affect the kids is the pressure that the drone instructors put on them, right? And it really just comes down to if the kid does not have any comprehension, right, of what's going on, or situational awareness. For example, like if he's not really aware that he is not doing the high knees, right, to his chest, right, to his chest, all the way down, all the way up, because some of them just want to do, tap dance on the freaking deck, like, but salsa, bachata dancing on the deck. So, or like if we tell them to move faster, but they move faster at their own pace. And that's really not what we do. We tell them, like, you're going to move like you're about to, like if somebody had a freaking gun pointing at you, right?
Yep.
That's how fast you're going to move. If you don't move fast enough, you're going to get shot, right?
Yep.
And that's something that it comes down to the team of drill instructors, right? The EDI and the SDI should be putting that type of pressure on the kids. Obviously, the fourth hat does, but it should be explained by the SDI, right? The senior drill instructor, like, hey, when we sit down and we have square away time, before you do that, hey, come here real quick. I got to tell you something. You guys have not been moving fast enough. This is how I want you to move, right?
Yep.
Or and then it's just rare occasions where the kids, for some reason, they can't handle the pressure, and they think that there's a way out. So I'm gonna tell you a story about this kid. I saved them twice. I don't remember his name, but I remember his face. He was scrawny, skinny dude, and he was a good recruit. Like, I'm not telling you that he ran, he did, all the physical exercises, he did everything he was told, but he was one of those that wanted to essentially go home. He was just tired of it. And, come to find out, he went to medical and he got a light duty sheet for 48 hours. He was not supposed to PT, so I told him, the drone instructors in my team, not to do it. Hey, that kid over there, leave him alone. You can scream at him, but do not make him pick up any weight or any full lockers or anything like that. Just, let him be. Then come to find out, he comes to my hatch, talk about, sir, this crew wants to quit. I'm like, no, you're not gonna quit. There's no such thing, right?
Yeah.
And then he just keeps on being persistent about it, right? He just like keeps bothering me about it. And obviously I told the recruiter, I was like, hey, you got a kid here that wants to quit. And that's like my thing. I was like, I always reach out to the recruiter first. But then he kept crying, and then he said, like, oh, the recruiter is hurt. He wants to go home. The recruiter is hurt. Supposedly he was hurt, but he wasn't. Like, we know when you're, bluffing and you're telling the truth. So anyways, come to find out, he went to medical again, and they found something else with his chest. Now his chest pain, whatever. They couldn't diagnose him with anything, but they just said chest pain.
Yep.
Anyways, last resort was call his parents. You got somebody you care about back home, right? You got either your uncle, your mom, your grandma, somebody. I'm gonna look at the sheet that you put down and say, all right, you care about this person. And I ask the question, who do you care about the most back home? My mother, my father. All right, cool. Give me a second. Call his mother, call his father. Hey, your kid wants to go home. His mother was like, is he okay? The senior drill instructor is only gonna call you, and he's gonna hang up if like the mother entertains the thought of him going home. If she's like, oh no, mijo, come home. No. Hang up. That's it. you get the
I
father,
like that.
right? You get the father. Hey, put that motherfucker on the fucking floor right fucking now, right?
Yep.
And he's like, all right, I like this guy. Hey, recruit, come here. And then, the recruit was, yes, sir. And he got blasted over the phone, like, yes, dad, I'm sorry, dad, I don't want to do it anymore. Long story short, he said, I want to go back to training. So again, I told the Sears commander. Sears commander was like adamant about dropping him. He's like, don't waste your time on this kid. He's back to go. Don't give him the opportunity. But I was like, man, I just remember when I was a recruit myself, and I don't remember quitting ever, but I remember the opportunity that I got to become a United States Marine, because I came from the projects. I came from poverty. Yeah. I came from welfare. I came from a household that was broken, and I was like, if I remember that I put myself in his shoes, I have to have some compassion for that guy. If he wants to train, I'm gonna let him train. So I let him train. 2 days after, this motherfucker goes to medical and he says he wants to himself. I'm like,
yeah, you got nothing cool. You can do on that, can you? Do you?
No.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, he told me he was fine. There's nothing wrong with him. And then I approach him. I'm like, hey, son, come here. Yes, sir. Why the hell did you lie to me? It's like, sir, you screw. No. Don't call me sir. Don't even call me, like, just from man to man right here. Like, you as a man, 18-year-old, you're talking to a 30-year-old man, right? You told me to my face that you were going to make it, that you were going to make your parents proud, you make your father proud, whatever. But you told me that you were going to make it. You're going to go through this training. You're going to become a United States Marine. Now you're telling me that you don't want to go through because you're feeling sad. You're a sad panda. Okay, like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to my recruits. Don't talk to my platoon. Just stay in the back. I'm going to get you home. But you're going to... And so what I did, something that was, like, very personal to me, if I had a kid that wanted to, for some reason, crack the code and quit and wanted to go home, I would purposely delay the process. I'm like, you know what? Like, you want to go home. I'm going to make you go home. But I'm going to wait till, like, training day 30 to drop you, training day 40 to drop you.
Yeah.
Because I want to see you suffer, because you see all these kids, they're going to graduate. I want to see you with them, right? I want to see you on the bleachers or whatever. I want to see you watching them graduate, then becoming Marines, and then laughing on your face. So that you remember this moment when you become 30 years old, 31 years old, or whatever the age you may be in, but like, damn, I should have stuck through. Because those kids, when the quitting mindset hits, they're going to quit forever in everything they do. And come to find out that their parents are still married. He was, his hobby was playing video games, Fortnite, Minecraft, being at home. He's going to get a job with his parent with dad on construction. He's going to have a good life. Like, brother, if you quit now, you're going to quit every time you get a freaking an opportunity. Because if things get hard, college got hard, I'm going to quit. Work got hard, I'm going to quit. Like, that's not the way to go. You got to mold yourself. You got to grow outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Ultimately, you just got to find it within yourself. Like, what is my drive? And if your sole drive is to go home, bro, like, what did you even come here for? You just liked the idea of becoming a Marine or being a Marine, really? And I mean, I know I know from, at least for myself, right? Like, going through high school and stuff, there was a guy that was a grade above me, and we were like, played similar positions in football, wrestled the same weight classes in wrestling, and whatever. And he goes off, and I ain't gonna lie, like, he was slightly better than me in these sports. He goes off to go to boot camp because he said he wanted to be a Marine. And the dude took that same easy way out and said he wanted to unalive himself and all of that good stuff. And then next thing you know, like the opportunity came across my desk to, you know, pursue the military. And that's all I could think. My high school career, everybody compared me to this guy. And they find out I'm going into the Marines. Oh, you're going to be just like him yet again. Like, you ain't going to make it because he didn't make it. And anytime I felt down and out, it wasn't my dad, who I got hella respect for. It wasn't my mom, who I got all the love in the world for. No, I am not going to be compared to this bitch-made motherfucker that couldn't hack it for 2 weeks. No, I refused. Anytime I felt down, anytime I felt out, that guy quit. This is my chance. Like, that was my motivation to make it through it. Like, as weird as that is, and I've never like actually said his name out there, and I ain't gonna do it today because I don't want to let him know. But it for real was that guy. Like, this guy was better than me in football, and I hate admitting that. He was better than me in wrestling, and I hate admitting that too. But ultimately, where it counts, we're not living in high school glory days. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're out here trying to serve our country, earn a career, make brothers and sisters that you got for life. Like, and he couldn't do it, and I would be damned if I was gonna let him do it. And that's just kind of the way I felt about this situation. And I really do appreciate you like explaining that, you know, because from my perspective, not just as a Marine, but as a Marine recruiter, to be honest, I kind of thought it was opposite. I don't know if that was just a you thing, or if, you know, if that's the majority of senior drill instructors, where you want these guys to make it. Obviously, there's a standard that has to be met, but my assumption was, if you're not at the standard, you're gone. You're getting dropped, and then you might get dropped again, and then you're gonna get kicked off, and so on. So I didn't realize. I never knew, because I wasn't that recruit. You know, hey, I was doing what I needed to do on the island. But yeah, I mean, from my understanding as a recruiter, there wasn't much empathy on the island. And that's really cool to hear your perspective of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's something that same here, Dom. I was rare the times that I got to talk to a drill instructor, and I can tell you that as a recruiter, it definitely made me feel good whenever I got that phone call to try to remotivate that kid to make it through.
Yeah.
But I never did what Dom did. You got 5 more days or anything like that. I like, that was ballsy, but I'm not here to judge. Was that thing going around? We listen and we don't judge. Hey, that's how I treat you, brother. But I really thought that, like you said though, a lot of times that it would just be like, as a drill instructor, you got so many other kids that actually want to be there, that actually want to become Marines. The second one of them was like, I don't want to do this no more. It's like, yeah, fuck you, kid, bye. So it's very refreshing to hear that there's people like you out there that actually put the time and work in and take pride in taking that little shit turd, you know, and making it, you know, shining him up and making him into, you know, the best version of himself that they could be. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Josh. Like, if you're able to, like, what's one of the for me, boot camp was like one of the, it was hard, you know, I earned my title just like everybody else did, but it was one of the funniest experiences of my life, from just the shit you see drill instructors do to other recruits doing things to recruits. I even remember one time, like, walking across like the drill instructor house, and you're supposed to look away, but there's a mirror, so you see in the drill instructor's house anyway. And I remember one day, it's like a Sunday, and there's like a drill instructor on his knees, like no diddy. There was a drill instructor like on the his chair, like on his knees, and the other drill instructor was spinning him around in a circle, which is, you know, it's funny because like as Marines, like Marines do shit like that, right? But like, here I am, I didn't know anything about the military, and I just see these two people in here spinning them, and yeah, the fourth hat, he like sees me. We made eye contact through the mirror, and I was like, well, I'm going into the head. But what's one of the funniest things that off the top of your head that you kind of experienced while you're out there?
Let me think about this. There's a couple of stories that I truly enjoy, and obviously when you're doing it, it sucks. It sucks. You don't want to do it as a drone instructor, right? And you think that drone instructors want to do the job. They want to do their job, but when it comes down to consistency, like every day, you're talking about every day, waking up at 03, 02 in the morning, just to be at work and yell and run. I don't think everybody wants to do that every day. We're hurting. We're just in the trenches. So I think one of the funniest story, and not with the recruit, but with my partner, we were both at the RTF, right? And we got
for the people. Can you explain what the RTF is?
Recruiting training facility. So it's a classroom where you scream knowledge and they teach you knowledge, right? You get all of them inside in the bleachers. On the bleachers, they stand up and they hold their knowledge and they scream E1 in the Marine Corps is private. He wears no rank or insignia. And then you got the chief drone instructor saying like, eyeballs, drone instructors, I got them. Sit down. And then they all sit down. 10, 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And then the green shirt would usually teach knowledge. So we were outside of the RTF watching the head, me and my peer. I'm not gonna say his name. Whatever.
That's fine.
Me and my peer, right? And we were watching the head. And usually when you watch the head, right, you have all these recruits coming in and out. You had to count them down. Like 200, you got 200 to take a piss and, get back in the classroom. You got to learn knowledge, right? That's the justification that we give. If somebody's asking me, like, why are you counting them down to use the head? Well, they got to learn, right? Because we have a test. But anyways, he's watching the head. I'm watching the head, and we're just talking. And, man, I'm hungry. And he said, like, yeah, I'm hungry too. And all of a sudden, he reaches out in his pocket, all the way inside his pocket, and pulls out a slice of pizza, a whole slice, and takes a bite, right? He takes a bite, and I'm like, yo, where'd you get that slice from? He's like, I got it from the chow hall. Like, how? He's like, when no one was looking, I just, looked left, right, and I took the slice, and I put it in my pocket. And I'm like, what? All right. So as he's taking the bite, he hears recruits coming out, and the recruits come out, and he puts it back in his pockets, but he has a mouthful, and he's like, and like he's trying to chew while he's trying to swallow as well. So I think that's just one of the stories that I have. I have many, many, many stories that I'll have to like sit down and like think about. I really have this other story that's really inappropriate, but I'm gonna leave for some other time.
Well, hey Lou, what about you? You got any weird ass boot camp stories, bro? Like just one?
I mean, for myself, man, I'll say one. So, I come from the hood, that type of background, and whenever growing up, a fresh haircut is a must. Gotta get lined up, all that stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah, he knows where I'm going with this. So, I'm about more than halfway done. We're getting our last uniform fitting, and everybody knows I got the best edge ups in the platoon. So, like, because I've been practicing, and I got a couple other buddies that they edged up too, so they looking good. This fucking Lance Corporal comes up to me while we're getting fitted or getting our uniforms. He's like, "Oh, look at this recruit with an edge up, he." Mind you, this motherfucker was probably overweight at the time. Just loved the fact that he worked there to mess with recruits, and he comes and finds my drill instructor and tells him my at the time we called him the kill hat. So I only had 3, so the third hat, the junior guy, he finds him and he tells him, and this motherfucker tells me when we get back after fucking me up in the sand pit, he tells me to shave a straight line from here to here. And so I'm not questioning my drill instructor, man. I hated it. I went in. I was like, fuck, this is going to suck. And I literally took the straight razor, and we hadn't had a haircut yet, so my hair was a little long, and I just went straight down. And I come out, and my senior drill instructor is like, son, what the fuck did you do? And he made my other buddies do it too. And then, I was like, this recruit just, and mind you, like at this point, it's not just my platoon outside. Follow series is there. The rest of Elite series is there. So everybody's seeing what's happening. The series commanders, we're just waiting on the series commander to come out for whatever reason. And right as I say, like, Sergeant Tennyson told this recruit to, he's like, come here. And he pulls the drill instructor to the side in front of me. He's like, come on, man, I'll talk to you about this shit. He's like, take these fucking recruits to the barbershop right now and shave their fucking heads. This is the type of shit that I'm talking about. So I guess you're not supposed to do that because you consider it hazing. But I look like a fucking idiot.
Dude, that is funny as shit. I've never heard that story before. But hey, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the After Action Podcast. Josh, Battle Buddy Banter, I really appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing your knowledge with our audience here. Do me a favor, give a little shout out. Let the people know where we can find you at.
So you can find me on IG, Instagram. You can find me also on YouTube, and you can find me on TikTok and Threads. Threads is with Instagram as well. So you can find me anywhere on the social media platforms. Battle _buddy _banter.
I'm gonna link all of his ats down in the description. Folks, make sure that you got your notifications turned on. Like the video if you like the video, please. All right, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And we're excited to continue to give all this information on all things Marine Corps related. We're more honed in on the recruiting process, the preparation for boot camp process. But obviously, you can see we got some contacts out there. We got some drill instructors we're going to bring on board so we can make sure that you're fully informed. So if you're a parent, this is a podcast for you. If you got interest in the military, this is a podcast for you. If you're a recruiter or a drill instructor, this is even a podcast for you. Let us know what kind of questions you got. We're going to be more than open to answer all of those questions here on the After Action Podcast. Until next time.
Peace.